Hi guys, it's Rachel and Rich. We are back. We're going to make no knead sourdough bread today. So I just want to let you know what we did as of last night. We took out our sourdough starter and we fed it. We mixed it up and we kept it out overnight. And then we fed it again this morning, mixed it up, and then we fed it again this afternoon. So now we're ready to make our no knead bread, no knead sourdough bread. And we're just going to explain in detail how to do that. So here we go.
Great, thank you, Rachel. So what's really cool about this recipe is 4 ingredients. Only 4. How simple can that be? The one negative part about a no knead bread is it needs time. You need to make it the day before. You need to let it sit out at room temperature for about 12 to 15 hours for all that chemical process it needs to do to get the gluten going and that flavor you're looking for. So it's around 5 o'clock right now, so we're starting it for tomorrow's dinner. So we're gonna get started. You notice I have a scale out. In baking, everything it's not really called a recipe in baking, it's called a formula. It's more precise. It's it's not like cooking where you throw some ingredients in a spice pan, you taste it, you add, change. This is a more exact formula. Once we put it in the oven, there's no changing it. So in baking, we usually use a scale. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the bowl on, and on my scale, there's a little button called tearing, which zeroes it out. So instead of weighing the bowl, I have the bowl on, but it's starting off at 0. The other thing is in baking, professional bakers always measure their flour by weight, not by using a cup, because if you sift flour and you fill a measuring cup up, it's not gonna weigh as much as a cup of packed flour. So for consistency, we weigh our flour. So in this particular recipe, we're gonna be starting off with 475 grams of flour. And if you're ever wondering, in baking, it's about 120 to 128 grams of all-purpose and bread flour for a cup of flour. I like to use grams because it's a little bit more accurate and easier than ounces. As you experiment with your scale, you'll find out which one you prefer doing. All right, so it's at 477. It's 2 grams over. That's not going to make a difference. The next thing we're looking for is 6 grams of salt. So salt in baking does 2 things. It controls the growth of yeast, and it also enhances the flavor of bread. So just to be consistent, I'm gonna hit that green button. So now I got my bowl and my flour showing 0, and I'm gonna add 6 grams of salt. All right, I got that in. I'm gonna start off 0 again. I'm gonna take our lovely sourdough starter, which Rachel's been feeding over the last day and a half. It's really puffy inside. It smells good. I'm gonna pass it over to Rach, because you can't see her. Should have grabbed a spoon. Got a spoon right here. So the recipe is gonna call for 180 grams of sourdough starter. And I don't know if you can see, this is my consistency. It's called a liquid sour starter compared to a stiff sourdough starter. Rachel's zooming in a little bit. So it's kind of like almost like paste. It's looser than spackle. Let's put it that way. So I already have it zeroed out. I need 180 grams. Okay, I got that. Next thing I'm gonna do is I like to wipe down the sides from the drips of the sourdough starter. Every couple of weeks I change the jar, and usually it takes a couple of days to soak the dry stuff off to get it cleaned. Next ingredient, the 4th one, is gonna be water. We're gonna add 300 grams of water. Gonna hit the green button to zero it out. Now I'm doing everything in one bowl because I don't like cleaning up, a big mess. The problem is if you add too much water, you can't take it out easily. So if you feel more comfortable measuring each of the ingredients in a separate bowl, so be it. Make it easier for yourself, a little fail-safe, procedure there. So I got my 300 grams of water. Take it off the scale. I'm done with my scale. Put it aside. If you don't have this, don't worry about it. Just use a normal mixing spoon. This is called a Danish whisk or a dough whisk. It's circular with holes, which allows the flour and the dough to cut through for the mixing process. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this. Don't go too fast because water and flour laying on top of each other, going too fast will go right in your face. Scraping down the sides a little bit. Okay, so I got it. You can see the consistency on it. It's tacky. If you touch it, it's gonna stick to your hands. You know, so what I do is I take a little flour from my container right here. I'm just gonna put some on my hands. I like to scrape this off. You know, I put the flours, you know, try to help, still sticking with the flour. So what I'm gonna do is now just kind of pick it up a little bit. Just get it off the sides a little bit into a bowl. Just anal that way. And that's it. Then I'm gonna wrap this dough. Again, we're not kneading it. I'm gonna wrap it, and approximately every hour, I'm gonna pick it up like this and stretch it. So pick it up and then just fold it down. Rach, could you bring the camera down a little bit? Pick it up, fold it down. Just a couple times. And I'm gonna do that once an hour for the next 3 hours. If you don't do it, don't worry about it, because the reality is, I'm not gonna do it. But a lot of people do like to stretch their dough out for the first couple hours. I'm not a particular big fan of it. It's your preference. You could try both ways and see which way you prefer. So what you're gonna notice, again, we're gonna wrap this loosely. We don't wanna wrap it too tight, otherwise, as this ferments, the gases are gonna rise. It needs a place to get, you know, released. You're gonna see the dough become more moist and bubbly over time. It's gonna sit out on the counter, you know, loosely wrapped for, you know, till tomorrow, you know, 12 or 15 hours. And you can play around with different times. Is it better to leave it out for 10 hours, 15 hours, 18 hours? You'll notice a different flavor profile. I'm gonna wrap mine real quick. I got a little flour on the table, not a big deal. Nicely loose, cut this right out. What I do is, once I do it, I kind of just lift the sides a little bit and just kind of like loosely lay it down. I'm not pushing it down because I want the gas to come out again. And that's it. We'll see you tomorrow.